It's the third month of 2020, and it feels like we're already living in the end times. What do we do? I'll tell you what we do. We don't put out ridiculous, sensationalist online articles that show how terrible the world is becoming here in Asia just to make a cute story. It's time for a reality check. Now, I don't always get to do reality checks about a particular individual, but this one is kind of insane. A sensationalist article recently went out in the Dallas Morning News, written by an expat from America living here in Seoul, Korea, warning everyone about why it feels like the end times here in Korea. And because of such top-notch journalism, I thought, hey, you know what? This first-year Seoul expat probably has a lot of intelligent things to say. Now, I don't always pull out this card, but I've been here for 10 years. I know a little thing or two about what it means to be an expat here in Korea. I was here before Gangnam Style was a thing. I was here before people who had enough money were able to buy a smartphone and use a Google Map to get around places. I had a flip phone, thank you. I was an English teacher, a grad student, and now I work at broadcasting here in Korea. So I'm gonna tell you my opinion of it because there needs to be some balance out there in the world. First of all, and I am very serious about this point, let's call out the article and why it was in poor taste without actually causing hate to the person who wrote the article. Misinformed, but not a jerk. Oh wait, are you afraid that if I make a sensationalist video about a person or a newspaper that might have some unintended consequences that cause harm to that person or newspaper? Well, you should have thought about that before you wrote the article. So here it is, what you've all been waiting for, something for Alex to get angry about. Let's start with the title. I'm an expat in Seoul living amid the coronavirus outbreak. Oh, I feel like I'm living in the end times. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Because I live here too, and I don't feel like I'm living in the end times. We don't know how bad this is going to get. Or if you read articles published by scientists or just anywhere, you realize that there are 3 possible outcomes to this situation. 1 is that it goes away like SARS. 2 is that we contain it, and it's just spreading to a few people at a time. And number 3, it becomes just a part of the repertoire of all the flus and other colds, viruses that we get because it's stuck in our population forever. But it's not as bad as it sounds. Now, don't get me wrong, I've fantasized before about shooting zombies with Woody Harrelson in the end times. It sounds kind of fun. This is not the end times. I get it, you're writing a good piece of literature. You're a good writer, not a good journalist. It's kind of irresponsible journalism, if you ask me. And not necessarily the fault of the author, but kind of the fault of the publishing company itself. So, thank you, the Dallas Morning News. I'm a 25-year-old American woman teaching at a private academy in Seoul. Like thousands of foreigners, I use my weekends to travel the country or go abroad. Oh, that's nice. I like that. You know, kind of broaden our horizons a little bit. Travel. I love Korea. It's a beautiful country. But for the last few weeks, instead of living the expat dream, I'm living near the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. Couple of things I want to break down with this sentence. Number 1, your expat dream. Look, I get it. I was an English teacher here too. My first year in Korea was a lot of fun, and I kind of viewed Korea as my playground because I thought I would be leaving Korea after a year. 10 years later, here I am. So forgive me if you think that your expat dream is ruined, but while your expat life might be over, there are people here who have a life, who are living with it and aren't worried about the end times. Does end times mean you can't go down to Busan on a trip, or you can't fly to the Philippines because there are quarantine people who have been to Korea in the last 14 days? End times. Again, realize I'm not necessarily making fun of her. I'm making fun of myself too, because I had the same mindset when I was a first-year teacher here in Korea too. So again, don't point the finger necessarily at her, because if I do, it's me. Sorry you're not living the expat dream, but And also, about talking about the expat dream, come on. That is blatant privilege talk right there. And I know privilege. I'm a white male from the suburbs of America who went to a private high school and had my tuition for college paid for by my parents. I'm an entitled ass. Last point I want to make, the epicenter. Let me give a Google definition quickly. The central point of something, typically a difficult or unpleasant situation. First of all, is Asia the central point, or is it Wuhan? It's Wuhan! Second of all, how close do you think Wuhan is from South Korea? Actually, I don't know. How close is Wuhan from Seoul, Korea? 1,398 kilometers, or for us Americans, 868.677 miles. Seoul is not the epicenter of the outbreak. Let's get that straight. And even if you were talking about Korea, the epicenter of the problem in Korea is actually Daegu. You're in Seoul. My life has changed drastically since the outbreak started. Fair. At first, it was just a story coming out of China that caused a little anxiety, but did not affect my life. 4 weeks later, I feel like I'm living in the end times. When the news first broke, I wasn't afraid. But things felt strange. Again, with the end times comment, come on, like, I fantasize about living in the end times and fighting off zombies with Woody Harrelson, but it's not the end times. yet. The government encouraged everyone to not leave their homes on the weekends and avoid crowded streets. I did not heed the warnings and set off on my 45-minute subway bus ride to church in Shinsa, a popular weekend hangout. I was the only person on a typically crowded bus. I mean, again, it kind of feels like the end times, but kind of. Within a week, the number of cases began to rise. There were no masks found in Seoul. I asked my family in the US to buy some and ship them to me, but there's now a worldwide shortage. Okay. News reports in Seoul are apparently much different than reports in the US. I asked my family if they're worried, but they don't think it's a big deal. That's funny. We don't think it's a huge deal either here. I mean, it is something that we need to be aware of, and I'm glad that more people are taking precautions because that's what you should be doing, like washing your hands in the flu season anyway, but not like, oh, what do I do? Just because we make it a big deal doesn't mean it's panic time. It means we're being responsible here in Seoul. And dude, you're from America. Do you know how irresponsibly the US administration is taking care of this coronavirus? That's just a hoax, not really a big deal. You can go to work and get over it, no problem. Am I right, Mr. Trump? President Trump, excuse me. And I mean, some of the things that she's talking about are legit, like the actual journalism in the article, such as requiring people to get their temperature checked when they enter buildings. Some people have to wear masks when they enter certain government buildings. It's just the way it is. If a student sneezes in class, the others will look at me with fear in their eyes. Do you think he has it? They are young students and afraid. Okay, fine, you got that, so I need to make this video to tell you that there are other kids that are going outside and playing in the park. The economy in South Korea began to decline. Okay, that itself is true. I made a video on it, link right here in the corner. It's a fun one. The outbreak ramped up. Okay, this again tells us that we're in story time again, because when you use a loaded word like ramped up, it means you're trying to sell a good story, not tell people what's really going on in the situation. Now, I get it, there are some things that are certainly an inconvenience. We get guidance, like she mentions, on where we're allowed to go on the weekends. It's true, you shouldn't really be in crowded places. I was on high alert, but not yet fearful. Okay. So why was everything getting ramped up right before that? Surely this will get the cases under control. South Korea took bold preemptive efforts like sanitizing streets, buses, Can you sanitize a street? Like, are people spitting on the ground and someone else is licking it up, so you need to sanitize a street? South Korea took bold preemptive efforts like sanitizing streets, buses, subways, and buildings and shutting down high traffic areas. Surely this would get the cases under control. Then, it all changed. I mean, it's true, it did all change, but again, loaded words. I guess this is technically correct. I mean, this is when the Daegu outbreak began, but again, then it all changed. It's a bit dramatic. Then goes on to say stuff that is true. Seoul looks like a ghost town. That's pretty true, actually. There's a lot less people. I can always get a seat in the subway now. That is interesting. My temperature is taken before I may enter, and I'm told to hurry into my classroom, but no kids come to school. We close until further notice. Well, that is true. Like I said, the economic consequences of this are going to be dire, I think, anyway, to Koreans and also to expats living in Korea. That's why when you get sensational pieces like this that prevent trade or even cross-travel between countries, it's irresponsible. I sit at home waiting for any kind of news about whether my life will return to normal. I mean, okay, that's a real statement again. That's okay journalism. We're waiting, and our life is not normal. The coronavirus is everywhere. It permeates my life. It's here? Is it here? Am I, everywhere? Because you see signs that tell you the emergency contact number, because you have a hand sanitizer on the bus and a box of masks for people who don't have them. Okay. When I step outside, it feels like a zombie movie. No, a cool zombie movie would be like me, Woody Harrelson, a shotgun, a baseball bat, and Columbus. I forget which character was Columbus, but that's where I'm from. I laugh about it and make jokes about Train to Busan, but I don't laugh anymore. I mean, this is like think about this. Just change the word masks to bread, and it sounds like the end times. Lines surround major stores in the morning where everyone waits in hopes of getting bread, only to learn that there are none. Grammatically, it doesn't make sense, but you know where I'm going at. We don't know what's going to happen, how bad it might get. Should I stay and hope life returns to normal soon? Will it get worse? And a travel ban. Will it get worse? And a travel ban will prevent me from returning to the US, ? Did you just, I guess that's technically correct. You have a question, but then a question. The coronavirus is very real, and I am living with it. Oh my gosh, are you okay? There are real-life consequences to this. Older people are dying at a higher rate than younger people, and it's dangerous, and we're doing our best not to spread it. That's true. I'm putting on weight because I'm not going to the gym anymore. That's also true, but I'm not saying, I'm a victim. I'm living with it, But there are also real-life consequences to irresponsible journalism. That includes the fact that my cousin was sent home to America because their university was worried that by being here, they were going to get the coronavirus and possibly die? Why? What would make you need to send people home for something that isn't the end times, to be honest? I mean, ironically too, sent back to America, where they're not really doing a good job of counting and checking and seeing how many people actually have the disease because there's not enough test kits. And again, the president thing. Another thing it fuels is racism, back in America especially, because now you've got lots of people in America who are worried every time an Asian sneezes. And even though I would be more dangerous if I were in America because I'd just been in Korea, over there, an Asian sneezing is an American sneezing, if they're not a tourist. And look, people do cancel their plans, and perhaps they probably should at this time of year because there are issues with travel restrictions. And the big issue is that people are afraid of people from certain countries, so there's an all-out ban or quarantine requirement once you get to that country. And the reason there's so much fear is because people do irresponsible things with journalism. Am I here to say that the coronavirus is super safe and don't worry about it, don't wash your hands, hang out in public, kiss everyone you see, lick the handrails at the station? No, I'm not saying that. But here's what I'm saying. The Korean government is doing probably the best job in the world at this point of keeping a dangerous situation under control. The reason that you see all these people taking people's temperatures and everyone wearing masks is because they're doing a good job of keeping it under control. Yes, the number in Korea is technically higher than most countries in the world, except for China. The other thing about that is it's because they're testing everybody. In fact, according to a Business Insider article published last Friday, 140,000 Koreans have already been tested for the coronavirus, giving us 6,000 cases. But that's part of the reason that there's only a 0.6% mortality rate in Korea, because they're doing a good job. The reality of that situation is that the fact that you see people in these spacesuits that are super protective, that means that Korea's doing okay. They're doing a good job, and it's not the end times. So while this may feel like I'm singling out one individual person, which, I mean, I guess in the video I am, I'm actually calling on all people to stop with the ridiculousness of sensationalist journalism. Yes, it gets more clicks, it gets more views. I'm a YouTuber, like clickbait, that's my thing. But I'm not gonna use clickbait and catchy titles if it might inspire racism or hatred towards a group of people that are not my own. Hopefully I said a few things straight and it makes us realize that we're not really in the end times here in Korea. We're okay, we're doing fine. Yes, some people are getting sick and more people are dying than should be because we have a flu that we're not used to yet. But we're okay. Wash your hands, wear a mask if you yourself are sick, and yeah, maybe don't go to church or other super crowded places if there's an outbreak in your city. Otherwise, live your life. Me not going to the gym and gaining weight, coronavirus is an excuse. I can do push-ups at home, but I'm not. And don't worry, Mom, I'm doing just fine. Seriously, I'm okay. Like, you can stop asking. I'm fine. Goodbye, haseyo.